Hey, how's it going, guys? Matt here. I am an expat living in China. I'm making this video from Ningbo, south of Shanghai. It is virus days, sort of crazy virus days. I'm running some errands. I'm driving to our old house to pick up a shoe cabinet and some shelving. I am also going to a bank to do some banking here at the China Merchants Bank, which is my bank, and pick some stuff up from the old house and just sort of running around. It is a really nice day. Clear, some clouds, almost as clear as you can get in China. Not exactly blue sky, but pretty good. I recently updated my passport. So my old passport number is tied to my bank account, and months and months ago, I haven't rectified this yet, months and months ago I tried to take some money out and send some money, and the account was locked. I was a little nervous and didn't know why it was locked. I'm always like thinking maybe the worst, like there's some something going on with my account. But in this case, it made a lot of sense. I had just renewed my passport in Hanoi, in Vietnam, on my cycle trip, and so as soon as the bank realized that my passport that was tied to my bank account is no longer valid, they disabled my account. So I have my old passport, my new passport. I'm going to take it to the bank and have them turn me on, switch me on. So along the way, I figured we could chat. All right, we're at my office right now. We just loaded up a bunch of stuff, bedding, and used to be that Annie and Eva would sleep at the office because it was close to the school. But now that we have the new apartment, we're going to slowly disassemble the office and use our house. So our house is actually now going to serve the purpose of the office and our other apartment. So we're going to consolidate two places into one, which is nice. All right, onward to the next location, which is the house, our old house. Yeah, if you think that Chinese underground parking lots look like bomb shelters, that's because they basically are. They're designed to become shelters in the case of like a strike of any kind. The doors are reinforced, and there's oftentimes showers, like hazmat style showers and gas masks and all sorts of interesting things. If you were to peruse a underground Chinese parking lot under almost any apartment complex or commercial property, you'd be very interested to see like the bomb doors and the reinforcements and the preparations for catastrophe. I've received some comments in the comments section asking me why I don't reference or talk about, bad or positive, about other YouTubers that might be more slanted towards anti-China rhetoric. I don't really... I feel like people's words and actions should speak for themselves. I think that there's a lot of exaggeration and there's a lot of labeling. I think that people like to paint in a very broad brush, and a lot of times I think it's somewhat arrogant to think that you know everything about a certain issue, and that goes for everybody. I'm not trying to single anybody out, but I always default to the idea that I am potentially ignorant on a topic, and I always try to leave room to learn and be swayed. I have a certain base of experience that lends itself to certain topics, but I also have a certain background that lends to my perception of different things. We all have different upbringings. I had two older sisters. I was raised in a certain household. I had a father that bestowed certain traits on me. I lived a somewhat milquetoast upbringing. whereas other people might have been brought up in a bit more harsher environment. And that shapes your perception of things. Everything shapes who you are, and it shapes what sorts of opinions and things you have in the future. I certainly think that there is much more nuance. I am not a pro-CCP YouTuber, but I am a YouTuber that has had a very good life here in China, and I've witnessed some things I don't agree with. I'll talk about them. I've witnessed a lot more that I am happy with, and I talk about that as well. I think I try to be pretty nuanced in my judgment and in my perspective. I try not to judge anything or bring up a topic unless I am pretty well versed or pretty confident on it, and I try to paint in as narrow a brush as necessary in order for me to feel confident that what I'm saying is true. I'll tell you this. I think there's a real problem in labeling. There's a real danger in painting with a broad brush. And when you use words like everybody or all, all Americans do this. All Chinese do this. This is how people act. People, When you lump in and try to judge an entire culture by a single experience or a single action, then you're just antagonizing an issue. And I think today, especially today, the world needs less antagonists and more pragmatists, because it used to be that your antagonism could be sort of thought of as a coffee table style coffee table antagonism, I guess. Something that you kind of like, yeah, did you see that YouTube video? Yeah, that was crazy. But today, if you want to sow a narrative against an entire culture, it can start a war. And we're not there yet, but geez, I think it's very dangerous if you really sow seeds of hate without being objective and flat across the board. So you'll hear a lot of my videos that might talk bad about my home country, America. That's part of the freedom bestowed on me as an American. I can actually talk straightforward and honest about my misgivings for how they have handled this particular epidemic, and I don't have a lot of positive words to say about other things that they've done either. Now, okay, let's play it straight here. I'm very open to criticize my government, but I may seem sort of tight-lipped about the government here. Am I a CCP shill? Does that make me a CCP shill? Let's discuss this. I'm willing to. First, I have been an American for 40 years. I've lived in America for 30 of those years and involved myself in the politics of my home country. Much more than I have involved myself in the politics of China. I am sort of swept up in certain policies, but I could not call myself a political scholar of the Chinese governmental system. Do I steer away from topics in China because of the potential repercussions of doing so? Maybe I do it subconsciously. I don't bring up Xi Jinping a lot. I don't really have much knowledge of what's going on there. It's one of the things that's interesting about China is in America, I can turn on the TV and see all sorts of introspective and explanatory exposés on our administration. And in China, you just don't see that very much, at least not superficially. And I don't necessarily watch Chinese political news shows or read Chinese books on Chinese politics, so I don't really understand enough to talk about it. Things that I don't like about China, I could definitely talk about that. I don't like the fact that I need a VPN in order for you guys to see this video. I feel like there is definitely a restriction on the amount of things that the public can watch versus what I can watch on the VPN, and I think that that is an injustice, and I don't think that's right. But I'm in this country. It's the way that they do things, and so I've learned to live my life around it. I've learned to live my life around a number of things I probably can't even recall. You know, it's just the way things are. I have lived a pretty comfortable life here because I am a foreigner in many ways, and I appreciate that. There's definitely things that bug me about China. I think you'll always find videos of me referring to them, to be honest. I don't like the way people drive, and certain aspects of the way that society is set up here I don't necessarily agree with. They're not anything that has caused me any personal discomfort. There is a watchful eye sometimes I feel on me in certain places, but I normally am able to assuage a lot of that stuff with a big smile or a hello. I've had some suspect police looking at me sideways glances, and I typically walk up to them, give them a big howdy ho, and it seems to be okay. I have never really gotten involved or had any conflicts with the police. There was one time I flew my drone over a place I shouldn't have. I got escorted to the police station, my uncle and aunt in tow, but that was justified. There would have been the similar repercussion if I flew over the tallest building in the States, or I was in Shanghai at the time, over the tallest building in Shanghai. I think it would have probably been similar if I was flying over the World Trade Center. And as a matter of fact, I probably got a lenient punishment with regards to how America might have dealt with me as opposed to here. I've been able to stay at any hotel I've wanted to. I have been able to buy products at almost any place I've wanted to. I have been able to talk with and deal with people in the government, and I have never really had to worry about muzzling myself, probably because I've never really felt it necessary to take on highly sensitive political topics. You've seen me talk in these videos. I have not been ignorant or neglecting to say that the response of China in the very beginning of this process was bad. The Wuhan response and cover-up of this to cover their asses politically was disastrous, and definitely needs to be talked about when you want to talk about the whole picture behind this virus. I also have been involved in a lot of the responses to this virus, the lockdowns, the mask wearing, the quarantines, the hazmat suits, the mask usage, and all of these things I talk about positively because I think they have had a positive impact on the suppression of this COVID-19 virus. I haven't seen stacks of urns. I haven't seen crematorians working 24 hours a day. I haven't seen people being repressed. I haven't even seen discrimination, but I've heard stories about it, and I try to weigh in as much as I can based on the looseness of the information that I get. It's very hard for me to have an opinion about something that is supposition, and so I won't expand on supposition. I will talk about supposition, and I will talk about what people might be saying and what might be in the social media environment, but I try not to pass too much judgment without concrete proof. A lot of the criticisms I have for my home country is brought on by statements directly from the people at the top. So I have a very tangible place from which to build my criticism on. So I don't know, maybe that still makes me a shill in a lot of your minds, but I've lived in China a long time and I've seen a lot of things, and the lion's share of the things I've seen have been really positive. There was, when I first moved here, there was a sort of a lusting towards Chairman Mao, which was I ran into a few of my older friends that had, you know, sort of hero worship for this guy, and I don't think he deserves hero worship. I don't think a statement like that would get me in trouble. Anyways, there are some topics that I don't want to get into, and I probably could become more politically minded and aggressive in my criticism. I don't see any need for it. Do I protect myself? I think so, of course. I have family here. There's probably a certain mark that I don't pass over on certain topics. But you know, you can dance around topics pretty good to get people to understand where your mind is. You don't have to just blurt things out in order to get yourself the spotlight passed on you. So I try to dance around issues enough to where you understand my motivations, and therefore you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. I think that we are living in a very unique time in human history, and we have to be very careful how aggressive we label and how aggressively we coax the societies against each other. China, in a huge percentage, is out there working towards probably uniting most of the world together. They are greedy. They're kind of a greedy culture that wants to make money. I don't think that would be anything that would be far out there. They're also a very loving culture and a very caring culture. I'm going to head home. I think I'm going to wrap up this topic. I think that, you know, every society has its positives and negatives. Some have more negatives than positives. I think China has come a huge amount of advancement in the last 30 or 40 years. And they have done that in a fairly shrewd manner, in a fairly focused manner. And in a lot of places, you might look at some of their moves and say that wasn't so cool. And that would be a conversation I would be willing to have. You'd also could say the same about the United States too. I'm just trying to stay straight up. I mean, the Iraq War was something that I definitely didn't agree with, and that killed a ton of people. That destabilized a huge percentage of the world's population. America's responsible for some really bad stuff in our past too. Does that make me hate America? No. Does that make me want to shut up about certain things? No. I want to talk so we can get through these things and understand our past, so we don't repeat it. You know. I guess that's it. Take it easy, guys. Jayoe. I'm going to load all this stuff at the house, and it'll be that much more of a home. Bye, guys.